Well, hello there, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're off to a rather curious corner of cinema.
Indeed we are. A realm of science fiction, time travel, and a certain iconic car.
Oh, you've hit the nail on the head there. Huh. We're diving headfirst into the world of Back to the Future.
A splendid choice, I must say. It's a film brimming with imagination, humor, and a dash of scientific intrigue.
Quite right. Now, for those who might need a little jog down memory lane, Back to the Future whisks us away on the adventures of young Marty McFly.
A rather spirited young chap, that Marty. He finds himself flung back to 1955, all thanks to a rather ingenious invention.
Ah, yes, the brainchild of his eccentric scientist friend, Doc Brown.
The time-traveling DeLorean, of course.
Yeah.
But let's not forget the heart of this marvel of engineering.
The flux capacitor. It sounds awfully impressive, doesn't it?
Indeed it does. It rolls off the tongue quite nicely, wouldn't you say? But, if I may be so bold as to ask,
Then you.
what exactly is a flux capacitor? Is it something one might find nestled amongst the tools in a shed or perhaps on a shelf in a quirky antique shop?
A valid question. I must confess, I've always wondered myself. Perhaps you could shed some light on the matter for us.
Well, I hate to burst anyone's bubble, but the flux capacitor, while a stroke of genius in the realm of storytelling, is, alas, entirely fictional.
Oh dear. There goes my hope of whipping one up over the weekend. Still, even if it's make-believe, the very notion of it is rather thrilling, isn't it?
It certainly is. The thought of zipping through time, witnessing history firsthand, or even peeking into the future, who hasn't dreamt of such a thing?
Quite right. Imagine popping in on the dinosaurs, eh? Or witnessing the wonders of the future. Though perhaps best not to meddle too much, wouldn't want to create a paradox.
Indeed, the potential consequences of altering the past are a topic for another deep dive entirely. But what I find particularly fascinating is that while the flux capacitor itself is a product of Hollywood's imagination, the film does touch upon some genuine scientific concepts that are rather mind-boggling.
Oh, do tell. I'm all ears.
Well, for starters, let's consider the concept of time. Imagine it as a vast, flowing river carrying us all along its current. Now, along comes a rather brilliant fellow named Albert Einstein, a chap with a brain the size of a planet, wouldn't you say?
Without a doubt, a true luminary.
Quite. And Einstein proposed this rather revolutionary idea known as the theory of relativity.
Ah, yes, relativity. It's always sounded a bit like a puzzle box to me. Do enlighten us.
In the simplest of terms, it suggests that time, contrary to what one might assume, isn't this fixed, unchanging entity. It's affected by various factors.
Hold on a tick. You're saying time isn't constant, but the clock on the wall seems to tick away at a steady pace, doesn't it?
Well, yes, our everyday experience might suggest that. But on a grander scale, time is relative to things like gravity and speed. The faster you move, the slower time passes for you compared to someone who's stationary.
Now that's a real mind bender. So time is relative, like a cosmic dance between speed and time itself.
Precisely, it's all interconnected. And if you recall, the DeLorean needed to hit a precise speed to make that jump through time. 88 miles per hour.
Ah, so there's more to that figure than meets the eye. It wasn't just plucked out of thin air, was it?
Quite the contrary. It cleverly ties into this notion of time being relative to speed. Now, speaking of speed and mind-boggling distances, have you ever encountered the term light year?
Light year. Is that like how long it takes a torch to run out of batteries?
Yeah, I do enjoy your humor. Not quite, no. A light year is actually a measure of distance, a rather colossal one at that. It represents the distance light travels in 1 year. And light, as we know, travels at an astonishing speed.
Astonishing indeed. So light years are used to measure those incredibly vast distances between stars and galaxies. The kind of distances that make one feel rather small, eh?
Precisely. The sheer scale of the universe is quite humbling, wouldn't you say? Now, let's indulge in a bit of speculation, shall we? If we could somehow travel faster than light, like Marty and his souped-up DeLorean,
Oh, do go on.
might we then be able to flit between those distant stars? Perhaps even hop through time itself?
Now that's the question, isn't it? A real head-scratcher.
It certainly is. While exceeding the speed of light remains firmly in the realm of theoretical physics, it's a tantalizing thought, isn't it? Who knows what wonders the future might hold?
Wonders indeed. Well, if I may recap, the flux capacitor, while a delightful piece of cinematic fiction, has led us on a rather illuminating journey through some genuine scientific concepts.
Absolutely. We've delved into the mind-bending world of relativity, discovering that time isn't quite as straightforward as we might have thought.
We've also touched upon the sheer vastness of the universe, measured in these mind-boggling units called light years.
And perhaps, most importantly, we've seen how science fiction, like Back to the Future, can spark curiosity and wonder about the universe and our place within it.
Quite right. It's a reminder that even the most fantastical ideas can sometimes lead to real scientific breakthroughs.
Indeed. The line between fiction and reality can be surprisingly thin at times.
Well said. And on that note, dear listener, we leave you with a bit of a thought experiment. If you could invent a time-traveling contraction, what would it look like? And where, or rather when, would your maiden voyage take you? Until next time, keep those imaginations firing.
Cheers to that.